Streaming on CrossroadsToday.com, authorities in DeWitt County arrest a man accused in a shooting over the weekend.
An officer shot and killed during a police chase. We have the suspects and their charges later tonight.
Plus, Victoria County now has a newly elected Democratic Party chair. His goals for the party and more straight ahead.
Lots of sunshine for today, getting warmer. Won't be needing any sweaters this weekend. We'll be talking about your weather in a moment.
And with your help, we decided on the game of the week. Find out which team it is in sports.
You're watching 25 News now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker.
And I'm Karina Garcia.
Late this afternoon, DeWitt County Sheriff's deputies arrested 36-year-old Cody Allen Eggemeyer of Westhoff. He was found near Westhoff and taken in without incident by sheriff's deputies and DPS troopers. Eggemeyer accused of shooting 54-year-old James Lubienski of Yorktown last Sunday. Authorities say Eggemeyer will be booked into the DeWitt County Jail on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, felon in possession of a firearm. Both are felonies. After he was shot, Lubienski transported to Brooks Army Medical Center in San Antonio, where he was treated and released. An arrest warrant put out for Lubienski. He turned himself in to the DeWitt County Sheriff's Office Tuesday night. Lubienski charged with aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury. That's a second-degree felony. Cooler temperatures might be what some people in Texas are hoping for, but ERCOT is worried a cold snap could lead to an energy emergency.
Yeah, ERCOT now taking steps to make sure the heat stays on this winter. And we will have more on that later on 25 News Now at 6 after our break. Our next story, we're getting to it right now.
I think it's Mac coming. Oh, here's the viewer poll.
Actually. Mac, you're here to save us today.
But let's do the viewer poll here before we get to
That's right.
that
You can
game.
scan that QR code on your screen to vote. You already know how this goes. We ask you, do you feel like ERCOT is prepared to handle major changes in the weather? Yes or no? According to these results, it looks like 20% stand at yes and 80% stand at no. So we're going to toss it over to weather with meteorologist Mac Vettis.
You bet. Well, today it's heat. Next week we might have a little cooler weather, but it's going to be a hot weekend. Lots of sunshine today. Our current temperature is at 79. We managed to get up into the 80s. 83 was our high. Tomorrow we're probably, if you thought today was warm, tomorrow about 88 and then about 90 on Friday, Saturday. So yeah, it's a hot weekend, but there's some hope on the horizon. Remember, I promised you that on the 14-day time period we might see some rain. We'll be talking about that coming up in just a few minutes.
Mac, thank you. The next time you cast your ballot in Victoria County, you will be using the latest in voting technology. Margretta Hill, elections administrator for Victoria County, held an open house demonstration of the new voting machines today. These new machines will be easier to use, quicker to operate, and more reliable. Plus, when you vote, your ballot will print on paper. Hill says voting is now a two-step process. Every time you vote, your vote will be stored both electronically and on paper to maximize accuracy.
I just want everybody to, when they come and vote, to remember you'll mark it and then you'll leave it in the tabulator where they scan it.
All polling locations in Victoria County from now on will be equipped with these new polling machines.
Lavaca County Elections Administrator Amy Claisel resigned last Wednesday. The Shiner Gazette reports Claisel said she quit her job citing, quote, a very hostile work environment at Lavaca County, unquote, as her main reason for her departure. Claisel specifically named several people in her resignation letter, including County Judge Keith Mudd. Judge Mudd was shocked by the resignation and thanked Claisel for her service. Early voting in the state's constitutional amendment election starts next Monday.
A newly elected Victoria County Democratic Party chairman came out of retirement to do more for the community and to grow the Democratic values. Peter Taquez says he is willing to go out and do the work necessary because he believes the majority of voters lie with the Democratic Party.
I think there's a sort of a silent majority. People are beat down. And I think that there just needs to be enthusiasm and energy put into this, and they will come out of the woodwork.
He also believes if the party wants to get any results, they are going to have to communicate and have more involvement from community members. Now, the House Speaker is without a speaker, and the U.S. is without an ambassador to Israel.
And a congressional delay could hinder President Biden's pledge to support Israel in its war against Hamas.
President Biden in Tel Aviv Wednesday pledging U.S. support for Israel in its fight against Hamas.
I come to Israel with a single message. You're not alone. You are not alone.
Biden with Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who traveled to Israel last week as part of a 7-nation tour showing U.S. solidarity. But further administration plans may be delayed by Congress. On Wednesday, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee met to consider Biden's nominee for ambassador to Israel, former Treasury Secretary Jack Lew. Senate Republicans expressed concerns about Lew's involvement in the 2015 Obama administration Iran nuclear deal.
I'm going to have some questions for you about your activities in what I think was a backhanded way of supporting Iran.
But Senate Democrats are pushing back and urging Lew's swift confirmation, as the U.S. has been without an ambassador to Israel since July.
I am committed to getting you in place in Israel as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, House Republicans remained consumed by their intra-party speaker battle.
There are a lot of people just very frustrated right now about this whole process, but we got to get our act together.
Ohio Republican Jim Jordan's nomination failed in a second floor vote, leaving the House at a standstill. In Tel Aviv, President Biden said he plans to ask Congress for an unprecedented support package for Israel's defense later this week.
Protesters calling for a ceasefire in Gaza filled the rotunda in a congressional office building Wednesday. The protesters, part of a march of hundreds of Jewish Americans and allies from the National Mall to the Cannon office building. Somehow, protesters were able to get into the building carrying flags and banners and shouting chants like "Let Gaza live." Some of the protesters detained by Capitol Police. It's not clear what charges they could face, if any, for insurrection.
2 suspects in custody after a police officer was shot and killed overnight during a vehicle pursuit in San Benito, Texas. Officials say Rodrigo Axel Espinoza Valdez of Mexico and Rogelio Martinez Jr., a U.S. citizen, were arrested in the shooting death of Lieutenant Milton Resendez. The suspects were involved in a pursuit with DPS when the officer encountered the suspect's vehicle. The suspects then opened fire, striking the officer's cruiser, and one of the bullets hit the officer in the abdomen.
The pursuit returns back to Brownsville, and after pit maneuver is exercised, the truck is disabled, and both subjects again leave the truck, bail from the truck, and run. Luckily, unfortunately, this time they did not escape.
Lieutenant Resendez was a 30-year veteran of the San Benito police force.
The U.S. resuming direct repatriation flights for Venezuelans who unlawfully crossed the border. Last month, the Biden administration made all Venezuelans who have lived in the U.S. since before August eligible for what's known as temporary protected status, allowing them to stay without fear of deportation and providing them with work authorization. But Venezuelan nationals who entered after July 31st of this year not eligible for TPS. Those who do not enter the U.S. legally will be subject to repatriation flights.
We have lawful pathways. We have ways for somebody to apply for asylum, to apply to come into this country through a port of entry, the lawful, legal way. That's what we need everybody to do.
The Venezuelan government agreed to take back deported migrants, and border officials say they plan to increase the number of repatriation flights.
Here's some of the top headlines you can read in the Port Lavaca Wave. Early voting in Calhoun County begins Monday, October 23rd, and the Calhoun County Ministries Food Pantry Administrator is warning of a food shortage amid low donations. Plus, one lucky winner in El Campo receives a 2023 Ford Bronco after buying a lucky raffle ticket. You can read these stories and more at theportlavacawave.com.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell so you can see us, Crossroads Today, on YouTube. And stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 6. Angry parents punch a bus driver. The whole incident caught on camera.
Also ahead, an off-duty police officer on leave without pay after firing his gun at a school event. We have the details straight ahead.
Temperatures might be what some people in Texas are hoping for, but ERCOT worried a cold snap could lead to an energy emergency.
That's right. They're now taking steps to make sure the heat stays on during the winter.
In the winter, electricity demand is highest around 8 a.m. when Texans wake up and turn on the heater. The sun is still rising then, so solar panels can't rescue the power grid like they did so many times this summer.
We have a potential problem this winter because the market has not provided the level of dispatchable resources that that Texas needs.
If nothing changes, ERCOT estimates there's a 20% chance a cold blast like December's winter storm Elliott causes an electricity emergency.
There's been around 4 or so storms in the last 14 years or so that have been either similar or worse than a winter storm Elliott. So it's not something that's highly improbable to occur.
So ERCOT wants to improve its odds by taking a rare step. They formally asked generators to consider restarting power plants that are retired, including some polluters that have been offline for years.
Some of those won't be able to come back, and so we recognize that.
So they've also asked for new ideas that could reduce demand. That means more Texans will likely be paid to cut electricity usage this winter. ERCOT will sign off on these proposals in November. Fortunately, board members say this will be the first cold season since power plants have weatherized their equipment for specific low temperatures.
An off-duty police officer charged after he fired shots at a middle school Halloween event Sunday in St. Louis, Missouri. The 39-year-old reportedly pushed people and was verbally aggressive. At one point, he was shoved to the ground by another person. Police say he then stood up and showed a gun and a badge, then began firing the gun in the air several times, all while shooting that people would die. He now faces 11 felony charges. The St. Louis County Police Chief says he has been placed on unpaid administrative leave.
Surveillance video caught the moment a father punched a school bus driver in Maryland.
Yeah, it all happened Friday after the bus full of elementary school children was late arriving to the bus stop. Now the union representing school bus drivers is demanding better security.
School bus surveillance video obtained by 7 News captures the moment a man lunges onto a bus and strikes the driver as a child screams. The driver, a substitute on the Lake Arbor Elementary route Friday, was late at the stop, and the adults were angry because when the driver showed up on schedule, there were no parents present as required by the school system to take custody of kindergartners. The driver continued his route, then circled back following protocol. That's when tempers flared and angry words and blows were exchanged.
That's terrible. Yeah, it's very unsafe for us. And this is not the first time that has happened.
Nancy is a fellow school bus driver who tells us as the system deals with a driver shortage and often late buses, parent behavior and driver safety has become a concern.
We never know what we're going to run into because kids go home, I don't know what they tell their parents. Parents act younger than them kids, irresponsible. And they come out there and want to fight you instead of trying to be an adult.
A spokesperson for the school system telling 7 News that the driver in this case was following protocol. The incident is under investigation and that violence against staff will not be tolerated. Bus driver Nancy also has a message for parents.
We need them to calm down. We need them to understand that our priority one is the kids, their safety.
Actor Lou Diamond Phillips returned to Texas this week. He's preparing to teach a master class in acting and directing at UT Arlington. And yesterday he met with students to have some lunch.
This was an opportunity to give back and to be that guy that, inspires these young people, much like I was inspired, back in the day.
Graduated from UT Arlington in 1989. He landed roles, of course, he played Richie Valens in La Bamba, Longmire, and The King and I on Broadway. He's also been nominated for a Tony and an Emmy.
Yes, he has. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Lots of sunshine. Looks pretty nice. The problem is it's getting warm. Today, we're right now at a 79, but we managed to get up into the 80s, got up to 83. Tomorrow, 88. And then 90, oh, it's not exactly October-like, but there is some hope on the horizon. In fact, I'm even going to give you a tease on what's happening for Halloween. All that coming up in just a moment. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We did have sun, but we also had heat, and the heat is also courtesy of the south wind that kicked in. Is getting a little bit stronger. That wind is courtesy of a storm way up in the plains, and that's the one that's going to bring us the dry front that we expect on Friday. Now, will that front do anything for us? Well, as you can see right about here, because we're going into the future, there's Thursday. You can see that dip right about there. And we go further, and right about there, all it is a wind shift line that's going to be around here for a day, and that's about it. So there's really no hope of any kind of cool weather with this little line. Now, there is some hope on the horizon because we're watching the west coast of all places, and we'll be talking about that in a moment. Tonight, we're back into the 40s overnight. Tomorrow, we're getting up into the 80s, upper 80s, as a matter of fact. Could see a couple of 90s out there as well. It's not going to feel very October-like. You certainly won't need a sweater. And then we take a look at what's going on the West Coast. Well, this is Norma. Norma is a tropical storm that will likely be a hurricane. You can see it strengthen up to a 2, then to a 1, and as I told you last night, it takes the turn into the Sonoran Desert. So you can just imagine where the rest of that stuff is going to go, more likely than not into Texas. On the Atlantic side, we have Tammy, and you can see how Tammy is going to sort of strafe the Lesser Antilles as a minimal hurricane and then move out into the mid-Atlantic. But what we're really concerned about is the long term for us. Obviously, sunshine is good, but we need some real rain around here. This frontal system is not going to do much for anything in terms of rainfall. You can see the little dry line coming through. But if you looked out to the west coast of Mexico, you're going to be seeing more and more activity rolling up into the Sea of Cortez and then eventually into the desert. And then we're going all the way into Saturday. You can see it right about there. Not very far away that we've got moisture coming in. I do believe that next week we will have a much better chance at getting some rain about 7 days from now. 7:31 is your sunrise for those of you going fishing, and 6:53 is your PM sundown. So for those of you in Port Lavaca, getting up to 88 tomorrow. It's still sunny, but just a little bit warm there. Going up to 90 in Cuero, so yeah, it's quite a bit warm. And then we may even see another degree or two because what we're getting is a dry west wind, and that's going to actually heat us up. So we're looking at 91, 92, even though Saturday we'll have a north wind blowing for a day or so. But it's right about here. You'll start seeing the moisture Monday. A little better chance on Tuesday and Wednesday that we may get some sort of precipitation around here coming in from the west coast. And then, oh, I forgot to tell you, right about now, I looked at the numbers for the extended outlook, and for Halloween, we could be in the 40s and 50s. Chilly Halloween is the forecast for now. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Want you to scan that and put Crossroads Today on your phone. Here's Karina.
Thank you, Mac. And now here's Sports Director Gina Perez.
Thanks, Karina. We have a couple volleyball scores from last night, including highlights. That's coming up after the break. At a Crossroads, well, thanks to your help, we have decided on what the game of the week will be this Friday. You voted and we listened. 76% of you are in favor of the Goliad and Edna game. We will also be at the Refugio and Shiner game. Goliad will make the near hour-long trip to Cowboy Country. Goliad has not won this matchup in over 5 years. The Edna Cowboys come in as the favorites. Well, let's take a look at the voter tolls so far. 15% of you said Refugio Shiner, 79 Goliad and Edna, and lastly Yoakum at Columbus, 6%. Thank you, and if you'd like to vote, go to our website at crossroadstoday.com/vote. Well, out on the courts, the Yoakum Bulldogs welcome the ladies of Edna. And for Yoakum, it was just another day at the office. They get the win in 3 sets. Edna falls to 6-6 in district play. Yoakum still trailing the Columbus Cardinals, who beat them earlier in the year. Yoakum will travel there this Friday in what is likely their last chance for a district title. If Columbus wins, it'll be nearly impossible for the Lady Bulldogs to take first. If they do, however, win, the two will be tied. Edna trails Industrial in the standings, but are ahead of Palacios, Tidehaven, and Hallettsville. The Victoria East Lady Titans faced off against the Mueller Buccaneers, and East took care of business quickly and swept them in 3 sets. The scores were 25-12, 25-7, and 25-15, which was the closest set of the 3. East Maddie Samudio nearly had a triple-double with 17 kills, 15 assists, and 9 digs. The Lady Titans will travel to Corpus to take on the Ray Texans on Friday. UHV golf team is hot, but a South African on the team is even hotter. Joshua van der Voth won the UHV Fall Classic, making this the 2nd consecutive tournament the junior has won. Van der Voth shot 2 under par to win the whole thing after going 1 under par in the final round. The Jaguars as a team had an 899 with the 2nd place team shooting a 900. This is the men's 5th consecutive win at Victoria Country Club. Van der Voth finished 6-stroke ahead of the next 2 competitors. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has agreed to a new contract with the league that will keep him on the job through 2027. The 64-year-old Goodell has held pro football's top job since 2006. This is Goodell's 4th contract extension since 2009. Commissioner Goodell started as a lowly intern back in 1982 before climbing the National Football League's corporate ladder. And last but not least, Game 3 of the ALCS is less than an hour away from first pitch, and this is about to be as close as a must-win as it can be for the Houston Astros. Game 3 is in Arlington at Globe Life Field, and the Astros find itself in a 0-2 hole. The Astros made Globe Life Field its home away from home after sweeping the Texas Rangers in early September. Teams that have a 2-0 lead in a best-of-7 postseason series have won the series 75 times in 89 tries. The next 3 games are in Arlington. Well, that's your sports. Donna and Karina, back to you.
Thanks, Gina. We're back in a moment. A Kansas City auto mechanic who is actually a pretty big guy finally got a custom pair of work boots thanks to social media.
A 6'11", size 23 shoe-wearing auto mechanic finally got a custom pair of work boots. Now, Cortez Sexton was the big man who had the big problem of finding shoes that fit. Word got out on social media. Jacob, a shoe artist, stepped up to help. Jacob designed every stitch and crevice Finally, the big man has a pair of big work boots that fit. You know, if you don't have the right fitting shoes, you're going to have some problems. I mean, you're really going to have some issues.
And size 23, that's
hard to find.
Yeah, that's
very hard to find.
One of my sons has a size 13. I thought, that's a boat right there.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine 23?
No,
I got a
cannot,
size
actually.
12 flat foot. Now, that is really difficult.
Well, that was very. So they made the custom boots for him.
Yeah,
They made the custom boots.
They had to.
The word got out on social media out there in Kansas City, and Jacob, the boot maker, the boot artist, excuse me, said, I'm going to make the boots for him, and he did.
One good use of the internet there.
There you go.
Yeah, for sure.
And do we have useful weather coming up?
Well, if you want to lay down by the pool over the weekend, yeah, you could get a good tan. We're looking for quite a bit of sunshine and a very warm 92 by Friday and Saturday. It's going to be hot out in the football games. But the good news is next week we're going to start seeing moisture creeping in and increasing rain chances. So we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. Otherwise, have a great one tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Mac. And thanks for joining us tonight.
We hope to see you back here tonight for 25 News Now at 10.